Most of the time during our Farm Basics segment, we want to talk to non-farmers especially to try to help non-farmers just understand a little bit more about what we do on the farm. But today our Farm Basics message is really for you as a farmer to tell you, hey, it's time to check your grain bins. Whether you have grain in there right now or not, you got to be thinking about both this last year's crop and this coming year's crop and what's going to happen with your grain bin situation.
Once we get into spring and summer, there are so many things that are going to pull you away from your farm place. You're out in the fields doing things. You're planting, you're spraying, you're harvesting. And sometimes checking the grain bin goes by the wayside. And if you do have grain in the bin, I'll start with that. You really need to be paying attention because there's been a big change in the air temperature and also the humidity. Inside that grain bin, that grain is going to be cool and dry. Now you've got warm and humid outside the bin and a very hot sun beating on the sides of the bin. This leads to potential problems. So that grain temperature in the bin should be within 20 degrees or so at most of the outside temperature. So if it's 80 degrees for a high in your area now, we need to get that grain temperature up a little bit inside the bin and we need to start moving it. If we have a huge difference in the temperature, you're going to have some problems down the road.
To monitor all of this stuff, we have put agri-dry systems on our bins just so we can see, hey, what is happening internally with the temperature? Are we getting any grain spoilage? What's our moisture situation? All those types of things can be controlled to some degree by running your fans or not running your grain bin fans. But nevertheless, that still doesn't mean you shouldn't check your grain bins. So actually go to your grain bins from time to time, check them out, and just see what kind of condition your grain is in.
All right, if you've been hauling some grain out of those bins, beware of crusting on the top. We hear of issues all the time that somebody gets hurt or even killed because there was a crust over the top of the grain. They started pulling grain out from underneath it, and when they climbed in the bin, they fell through. So be very cautious. If you've got some crusting or you've got some mold or spoilage that's already started in your bin, haul the grain out and use all the safety precaution methods available so you don't breathe that in and get it into your lungs and have any issues.
The main thing I always tell people is have a buddy. Have somebody with you at the grain bin if you need to go inside and do any work because grain isn't flowing out. That's probably the most important thing. The other important thing is to make sure you're working on all this stuff in advance. So let's say you've already cleaned your grain bins out, and yeah, it might be a little while before you need to do some of these tasks, but maybe you have wheat that's going to be harvested in not all that long. Start getting those grain bins ready. Get every last piece of dirt out from inside the bin, every old piece of grain, everything you can do. Check for leaks in your bins. Just go through everything from top to bottom in that grain bin before the next crop goes in there, and right before that crop goes in, make sure you spray inside for insects. That's incredibly important, spraying inside and outside that grain bin. We typically use malathion inside the grain bin, something that's not quite so super dangerous for humans, but yet it's going to have good insect control.
Well, keeping an eye on the grain bins can certainly save or make you some money. So can controlling our weed of the week. We'll show you how to stop this tough weed later in the show.